4-year plan, being able to complete all your credits in time, they can definitely help you figure out a way to do that.
I can definitely second that. I'm a psych major with a public health minor, and I'm a senior, and I didn't really have an issue, even though like almost none of my classes really crossed over that much in terms of like the pre-med prereqs. At most, I usually never really took more than like 15 hours a semester. And I think it helped a lot to have like AP credits, especially for like those like university requirements, like, you know, like US history and like government and like English and like stuff like that. And if you don't take the AP exam for something, like for example, US history, especially at like a public school like A&M, like you can take like a CLEP exam where you can just like test out of it. And so if you want to like reduce your workload for the semester, there's like other ways even besides like AP credits, at least at Texas A&M.
Okay, I got one question. If you plan on doing a pre-med major, how long do you have to wait until choosing your specialty, or can you choose it at the start? And would you suggest to do that?
Could you repeat that one more time? Sorry.
Yeah. If you plan on doing a pre-med major, how long do you have to wait until choosing your specialty, or do you choose it at the start, or would you wait?
So are you talking about major, or are you talking about like specialty in medicine?
It's not my question. Whoever direct messaged that to me, I assume you're talking about when you go into medical school?
Okay, I
Specialty
mean,
in
I'll answer
medicine,
both.
yeah.
I mean, a lot of schools don't even have pre-med majors, so you can't really do that. You have to like pick one, and then it's not that hard to switch if you want to switch. Especially like, for example, at UT, if you do biology, switching to chemistry is just as simple as like emailing your advisor. It's harder to switch between colleges, so like to switch to engineering or something, but it's not hard to switch between like natural science degrees. That answers that. And then to pick your specialty, a lot of people don't know their specialty until the third year of med school. So for you guys, that's like 8 years away or something. So I wouldn't worry about that. Even in med school, any research helps get you to whatever you want to do. Now, if you're trying to pick between a few things that are more competitive, then you probably want to do research in that competitive field, just because then if you choose that, you're already set up for that, if that helps. But normally people do tend to choose in their third year of medical school.
Okay. I have a question for like specific high school courses. They ask, what are some of the courses that would be helpful to take in the junior year of high school for pre-med?
Okay, so I mean, I can answer that one. In my opinion, they always tell you that you don't want to claim your science AP credits. They tell you that for two reasons, because if you're doing a non-science major, it's going to mean that college or med schools will look at your transcript and see that the only biology, for example, that you did was an AP credit. They're not going to like that. Now, if you're like a biochemistry major, you're probably going to be doing a lot more advanced biology and chemistry classes. So it's less of an issue if you want to claim those credits versus like not claiming them. How about that? So I think it depends on your major in that scenario. And then the other thing is that a lot of people like to take them anyways, just because like the intro chem and bio classes in college are supposed to be much easier. So if you want to pad your GPA, you would do it for that reason. Because if you claim AP credits, they don't count towards any grade points. So then, and as you guys all know, it's like at these days, you kind of need like a 3.9 to get into med school. So if you want to pad that grade, then that is something you can do.
Yeah, sorry.
One more thing. But as far as like non-science courses, so like government, English, all that stuff, you definitely need to take those APs, because it would save you so much time and effort in college, because you can claim them. It's a lot nicer experience.
Like Anish said, I was gonna sort of share my experience too. That's what I did. I had like all the AP credits that I could have used for like all the most of the prereqs, like bio, chem, physics, stats, like I can't remember the like English, I guess. But I ended up just taking the classes again, even though Texas A&M would have accepted my credits, because I had heard advice, like what Anish said. And I think it was nice because it was really easy to get like A's in those classes because I'd already taken the class. But I think just like, even if you do that, you will probably still have space to take like upper levels if you want to. Like I was still able to take like molecular bio, molecular genetics, biochem, bioinformatics. Like I was still able to take like a bunch of those, even though I like retook the intro levels. So, but you could do your own research on that.
Another question, just off of the GPA question that you mentioned. When you need a 3.9 to get into medical school, are you referring to weighted or unweighted GPAs? And how does that kind of system work in college?
Honestly, I'm trying to think if we didn't have weighted or unweighted GPAs. I think it's on a 4.0 scale. So, I mean, I mean, I can only speak for my own school because every college is different, but it's somewhat similar for all like Texas schools. We had like splits, so like an A minus is maybe like a 3.7 out of 4. An A is a 4, and then a B positive is like a 2.6, and then a B is like a 3. So I mean, it's on a scale of 4, but your grades like, like a 93 to 100 is an A, and then a 90 to 93 is an A minus. But again, that's also up to the discretion of a professor, because there's some classes where an 85 and above is an A. So it's like there's a university policy, and then professors get their own little leeway.
Yeah, I agree with Anish. We don't really have weighted GPAs. So how it worked for me, my first semester at least, was we had like numerical grades all throughout the semester. And then at the end of the semester, based on like the range our numerical grade was in, would be sorted out into like a letter grade. So like A minus, and so on, like Anish explained. And then you get a GPA based on your letter grade, if that makes sense. So it's a completely different way of like calculating it, but at least for my school, we don't really have like weighted GPAs.
And one thing that I want to add is that if you like look into it, different colleges will have different grading systems. So I think UT has like A plus, A minus, but for example, Texas A&M doesn't do plus minus. So like anything 90 and above, like sort of generally is like an A, anything like 80 to 89 is a B, which counts like as a 3.0. And so like, I think if you're getting like 90 and above, then it can feel nicer or like a little bit less stressful. But yeah, I think in the end, it kind of averages out though.
Okay. The next question was, which experience kind of pushed you guys into going into the medical field, or kind of helped you determine that you wanted to take this career path? Y'all, please.
I think I can answer this very briefly. So I think the summer after sophomore year, I volunteered at Texas Children's Hospital. And we had to like do like 100 hours throughout the whole summer. So I spent a lot of time there. And I think like getting to observe everything that doctors got to do and just like the way the patients reacted to it. I feel like that solidified my like desire to go into medicine, because I feel like I decided like really early, like in 4th grade, that I wanted to be a doctor. So like being able to see that like, oh, the job that they're doing actually does impact a lot of people, like made it very clear for me that this is what I want to do when I get older. So
I would say it was pretty much the same for me. I don't know. I can't remember the lot like when I actually decided I wanted to do medicine. It's always been something that I wanted to do. But I would say in high school, definitely try to, garner experience or try to learn more about med, whether it just be through like personal research, or I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to shadow a few doctors in high school. And then obviously, participate in med clubs and stuff like that. So that also, just like solidified, yeah, I want to do like medicine for sure. Like that's what I want to do. But yeah, that's it.
I would say, oh,
Oh, you can go ahead.
okay. I would say that I personally never found out that volunteering in hospitals produces any useful information to me about how I enjoy medicine or not. Because I don't know if you guys have ever tried volunteering, you're generally doing things like restocking and like cleaning patient beds, and that's really not what a doctor does. So if anything, it may make you feel like medicine's not for you. I'm not saying not to volunteer because, obviously these colleges and med schools like to see this type of volunteering experience, but I would personally opt to shadow. Like if your parents know a doctor, shadow them, or do what I was saying earlier, where you cold email. People will let you shadow, especially people that don't work in like actual hospitals. They work in like private clinics. They might let you shadow, and that way you'll get a better idea of what they're doing and not what like the staff of the hospital is doing.
I think for me, one thing that drew me a lot to medicine was sort of the research side of it. I actually did I don't know if the MSA is still doing this, but when I was there, like 2019, 2018, they did like a summer internship kind of program thing where they would like pair you with like a research mentor somewhere, or just like an internship. And I think, so I was at University of Houston, and I think that like really introduced me into sort of like more themes in medicine and issues in medicine. And so I think if you have the opportunity to even just like, reach out and like, if research might be interesting to you, then that is something where I feel like it is nice to volunteer. But I think also it's like another side to medicine, which is like really interesting. For me also, I was a founding officer of Miracle Club. And so I think that was definitely like a part of, I don't know, I think like service is still like important to help you figure out if like that's what you do want to be involved in as a career.
Okay, so we got a different question that's when looking at a pre-med or natural science major internship, what's the main thing a corporation looks for? Grades, certain important tests, etc., especially if you don't have previous experience.
I don't really think pre-medical students at least do internships at corporations. It's mainly in college, like you would do a combination of research with doctors at hospitals. So like, I mean, if you go to UT Austin, they have med school attached, so you can research there. It's mainly research like over the summers and then even during your med school, because like when you start working with one lab for a long period of time, and I say lab because that's like basic science research, but you can even do like clinical research at a hospital. But the point is, if you like longitudinally work with them, you're more likely to get your name on a publication, and that's probably the most important like determining factor that tells like an institution how much you've contributed and how much you've learned. Because if they're giving you credit for the paper, then you probably did something on the paper that was important. So I would say like stick with like one organization over the summer. If you start in the summer, maybe see if you can do it at your university so you can continue in the fall and try to get to that point where you get your own project. Yeah, there's not really that much interning that goes on.
I have a bit of like a counterexample. I think it is also possible to do like a lot of your research over the summers. I did four summer internships. And I think it like you can still, or I think they're like an additional really cool experience if you do apply for these, because they'll pair you up with like a research mentor, and like they'll give you a stipend, and like the mentor will be very like hands-on, like helping you like develop your research project. And like I was still able to like get a publication for one. And so I think like it is a really cool opportunity if you do like decide to apply to summer research internships. But like also at a lot of universities, there's like a million like labs where you can like get involved in, and it's also not the only thing that you can do. You can also do like other stuff.
Okay, another question was, do you guys ever regret kind of choosing your path? Because I know being on a pre-med and then planning to go into medical school is a very long college experience. So what kind of keeps you grounded or what makes it so that you guys continue pushing forwards?
For me, it's like the ability to not only spend my entire waking life in medicine. I do plenty of other things on the weekends, even in the evening. So like it's not my entire life. So I don't have to like, live and breathe medicine. So it keeps me from burning out, which is why I would be able to, continue forward. Um, I wouldn't say that. I think a good way to put it for most people is that if you can see yourself doing something else that you're happy with, then maybe medicine might not be the right path because then you might go back and start thinking, what if I did this? I'm here for 10 years longer than everybody else. I'm gonna get a job at 32. What if I did that, right? So if you don't have those feelings because medicine is the only possible choice for you, then you won't really second guess yourself as much, I guess.
I think the last thing Anish just said is very important. I mean, I'm still an undergrad and I'm doing engineering, and so last semester things got a bit like rough for me class-wise, and so I started like rethinking like why did I choose engineering when I could have done like maybe an easier major to like get into med school. But then I like realized that I chose that major because I did like engineering and I also like the medical side. And then I also don't see myself doing anything else when I graduate. So I feel like that's like the one thing pushing me to keep going. Another thing is like trying to allot time to take breaks and not just constantly studying. Because I feel like you might lose your mind eventually. So yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think another like common misconception a lot of high schoolers have when applying to college as a pre-med is that pre-med itself is a major, which it's not. At least at the school that I'm in. And so a lot of the times what you can do is if you have like a passion for medicine, but also like an interest in another, subject, you can totally make that other subject your major and then still fulfill pre-med requirements on the side. Like for example, I have a friend goes to the business school here and he's majoring in business, but is still a pre-med student because she's able to do the pre-med, requisites on the side. So I wouldn't say do another major as backup necessarily, but if you do have another passion, you can obviously do that. And yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but just another perspective on it.
Cool. This one is a very specific question, I think. What are some of the different internships that are possible to do in high school? I feel like you guys wouldn't know every single one out there, but do you guys have any that you guys did while you guys were in high school and that you thought were cool or would be helpful? Things worth applying for?
I applied for one my senior year of high school called the Eugene and Ruth Roberts Summer Student Academy, and that's at City of Hope in like the Los Angeles area in California. And they do like I believe it's still like a mixed program where it's like high school students and college students. So I would definitely like recommend applying there. I think that helped me have like a leg up on research coming into college. Um, that was my first internship. And then there's also I did the University of Michigan School of Medicine, their like CARSIP internship, which is cancer research summer internship. And then I did the Harvard Biological Sciences and Public Health summer research internship, and that one was really nice too.
All right, do we have any other questions?
Yeah,
Or
okay, so
people
this
in the
is
chat?
going to be the last one, and then if you guys have any more questions for our speakers, we'll be sending out a Google form. So if you were to try to ask a question or anything like that, you can make sure to fill that out at the end. So the last question is, obviously college has like a more expansive course list and a lot more niche classes. Are there any specific classes you took in college that either changed your perspective on something in medicine or was just interesting?
I think there was this cool class at UT called medical terminology. It's like it teaches you all these prefixes and suffixes that are important in medicine. And honestly, I thought it was kind of useless when I took it. I just wanted the credit because it was like a humanities credit and I needed it. But like 3 years later, I'm in med school and we have all these diseases and all these body parts and they have these prefixes. And I'm like, I don't know why I know this, but I know what this means. So it kind of came in handy. I would recommend you take that class. It's like not that hard of a class to do well, and it's something that you can take in a harder semester, and the knowledge you gain will somehow come to help you in the future, and you won't even realize it. So yeah, it's called like Intro to Medical Terminology. I'm sure many other schools might have a similar course.
All right. Okay, so thank you to all of our not mentors, alumni that came here today. If you guys, like Catherine said earlier, do have any other questions, we will be sending out a Google form on Remind. If you guys think of any, please go ahead and fill that out and we will get those answered for you. So for our alumni, you guys are free to go. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules to be with us today.
Okay, so we're going to be sending the link for additional questions in the chat. So again, if you have any more questions for any of the speakers today, feel free to ask.